All right, today we are looking at 6.3, talking about complementary and supplementary angles. Now, in order to be complementary, that is where two angles form together and create a 90 degrees. So here's a prime example of one where you see an angle measure that is 30 degrees. And then if you combine that with an angle that is 60 degrees, well, 30 plus 60 gives you 90. And so as a result, you can say then that angles 1 and 2 are complementary with one another. So as long as they add up to 90 degrees, these two angles, they are complementary. And that creates that right angle that we've seen in the past. Now, when it comes to supplementary, very much the same concept. However, these are two angles that sum up to 180 degrees instead. Okay. So imagine if you had 135 degrees and then you add on this extra other angle, 45 degrees. You should end up with 180 degrees. If you took those two numbers, added them together, you get 180. And because of that, you can then say that those two angles, or angles 3 and 4 in this case, that's what they represent as the numbers, those two angles are supplementary with one another. Okay, and there's a lot of different combinations that would be complementary or supplementary. But again, complementary is 90 degrees, supplementary is 180. If you're like, hey, I can't really remember which one's which, usually I've encouraged students to think about like the alphabet. So complementary starts with a C, right? Whereas supplementary starts with an S, right? So which angle is smaller and which one's bigger? 90 degrees? Is 90 smaller or bigger? Smaller. Yep. Just like how it goes first with the alphabet. Supplementary is later on in the alphabet, and it's creating a bigger angle. Okay. So if you're ever confuzzled and you're like, I can't remember which one's which, most students can, but if you're ever stuck, that's what you can use. Okay. First one, or closer to the front of the alphabet, smaller angle. Later on in the alphabet, bigger angle. I know it's quirky, but if it works, use it. Okay. All right, next up, what we're going to be asked is determine whether they are complementary, supplementary, or neither. So again, complementary, 90 degrees. Supplementary, 180 degrees. And neither would just mean any other angle that you'd end up with. So maybe like 190 degrees or 132 degrees, any other kind of angle measure that's not those two. So as we look at A, we have 70 degrees and 110. Well, if I take 70 degrees and I add on 110 degrees, I get a grand total of 0, 8, 1, so 180 degrees. Now, because it's 180 degrees, it is supplementary. Okay, so that would be our answer. All right, next up, we have 41 and 49. So if I take my angle measure of 41 degrees and I add on my angle measure of 49 degrees, and I add these two together, 1 plus the 9, I get a 0 there, carry the 1. 1 plus 4 plus 4, we get 9. So there's 90 degrees. And from our definition, that is a complementary. Yes, we are looking for this math. I know that for some of us, we can probably do that in our heads. Trust me when I say you will encounter problems where it's not so simple. All right, so we do need to see that math. Finally, for C, We have 128 and 62. We're going to combine those angles together. Now for our last digit, the 8 plus the 2, we get a 0. That's a good sign because 90 and 180 both end in zeros. Carry the 1. 1 plus 2 plus 6. Looks like we get 9 there. And then 1 just drops down. So we're looking at 190 degrees. Well, that's not 180. It's definitely not 90. So this then would be a case of neither. Okay. So that's pretty much what we're doing. We're combining our two angles and then just determining which one it fits. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video and ask if you have any questions on A, B, or C. Now at this time, what I would love for you guys to do is continue to pause the video and try out 1, 2, and 3. So give those guys a shot, and then we'll come back together and see how we did. Awesome job to those students who got the correct answers there. We got, for number 1, 26 degrees plus 64 degrees. Carry the 1, gives us 90 degrees. And as a result, that is complementary. So for number 1, you should have gotten complementary. For number 2, we have 44 degrees. And we are adding on 136. Again, ending in a 0, that's a good sign. Carry the 1. 1 plus 4 plus 3 gives us 8. And then the 1 drops down. So that is 180 degrees for supplementary angles. And finally, number 3, we have 70 degrees plus 19 degrees. Ending in a 9. That's not a good sign. 7 plus 1, 89 degrees in total. Neither. So go ahead, feel free to pause the video if you have any questions on 1, 2, or 3. Now, pretty much every single year, students will ask, hey, Mr. B, do I have to actually show this stuff? And the answer to that is yes. Okay, I know it seems very simple and easy, but it's because I want you guys to get good habits, because things are not always so easy, especially as you guys progress in high school. You're going to start to see where you have to find those complementary and supplementary angles, but not necessarily both angles are given to you. Instead, you actually have to solve for a particular angle, okay? And in high school, they get a little crazier with these, all right? We're kind of seeing more of the foundational ones, but the game is still the same. So here we see that we have an angle measure that is 136 degrees. And our goal here is to try and figure out, well, what is X? So if I'm trying to calculate what X is, this missing angle, I know, based on my previous problems and the work shown on those previous problems, that if I were to take the two angles 136, and if I added X, I should, in total, end up with 180 degrees. These are the reasons why we're creating those good habits from earlier. That if I take my two angles and I combine them together, I get my 180, that supplementary angle. Now, in math, your teachers do want you to show that step, because you're telling your teachers now, I know if I take my two angles and add them together, I get 180. That is an important step, okay? Now the goal becomes, well, let's solve for X. Let's get X all alone. And from our warm-ups, we've seen quite a bit of these where we've been crushing it. We want to get X all alone. To accomplish that, we're going to get rid of this 136. So to get rid of it, we are going to subtract 136 from both sides. Here they cancel. X is all alone, all by himself, equals Now we actually do have to subtract. This is where the math comes in. 180 minus 136. So remember, back from subtracting large numbers, you're going to have to maybe borrow. 10 minus 6 gives us 4. 7 minus the 3 gives us 4. And then our ones, they'll just cancel with one another. So that missing angle is 44 degrees. So 44 degrees. Now, some teachers, and especially in high school geometry, what they're going to have you do is, now that you have found x, you're going to plug it back in and check and see, hey, did I actually get this thing right? So we know if we have 136 plus our angle that we really think is 44 now, do we in fact end up with 180 degrees? So if I combine these two together, 136 plus 44, 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 plus 4, we get 8. And then 1. So yes, we do in fact get 44 there. Okay. Go ahead. Feel free to pause the video if you have any questions at all on number 4. All right. Awesome job to that student who got that answer. So if, like on a quiz or test, if you just wrote 16 here, that is incorrect. Okay. You cannot just put down the angle measure. What our teachers are wanting is you actually have to create that equation to prove it. So this is a complementary angle, x plus 74 degrees. When I combine those two together, I end up with 90 degrees. You have to start with that equation. Now the question becomes, what is x? Got to solve for them. To accomplish that, we're going to isolate and get x all alone. So that 74 we want to get rid of. To get rid of them, we're going to go ahead and subtract it over from both sides. Here they cancel. Positive 74 cancels with negative 74. X is all alone equals. Now we're subtracting those two values. So 90 minus 74. Imagine here you're borrowing from the 9 to get a 10 there. 10 minus 4 is 6. 8 minus 7 is 1. Again, that's the proving part. So x is 16 degrees. But then again comes always the check. So with our x plus 74, is this in fact equal to 90? Well, we're dumping in our 16 that we think x is, plus 74. Is that equal to 90? And 16 plus 74. 0, carry the 1. Yes, you do in fact end up with 90 degrees. Okay. So yes, 90 is 90. So that tells us x was indeed 16. Okay. For me, as a math teacher, I want you guys to set up your equation. I've already mentioned that, but I do want you guys to check. A lot of your high school math teachers are going to have you check as well. All right. It's just good practice. Okay. Go ahead. Feel free to pause the video if you have any questions on 4 or 5. All right. Now looking at question number 6. Really, this is the exact same thing that we were doing a moment ago, only this time they don't actually state here's the angle in the image, but they actually do give us one of them. They say, hey, angle 1 is 42 degrees. So in our image, then, we can go ahead then and dump in our 42 degrees. Now it's there. Now looking at this shape and this angle, we see that it's that 90 degrees. It's that complementary. So we're going to take angle 1 plus angle 2 and set that equal to 90 degrees. Okay. If I took my angle 1 and I add my angle 2, I should get my total 90 degrees. Now I know what angle 1 is, so I can go ahead and place that value in there for angle 1, right? They told us angle 1 is 42. So 42 degrees plus our angle 2 equals 90 degrees. And now, again, our goal is to try and figure out, hey, what is this missing angle 2? So to accomplish that, we're trying to get him alone, isolate him. This 42 really has nothing to do with it. And that's why we're going to take him away from both sides. Here it cancels, leaving us angle 2 all alone, which is what we're trying to find. And then 90 minus 42. We're at the borrow. 10 minus the 2 now comes out to be 8. And now our 8 minus 4 is 4. So our angle 2 measure came out to be 48 degrees. So 48 degrees. Okay. But as always, we do check them just to verify and make sure we got everything correct. So if I take my 2 angle measures, 42 degrees, plus my 48 degrees, do I get a grand total of 90 of them? So 42 plus 48. 0, carry the 1. 4 plus 4 plus 1. Yeah, it looks like we get 90. So what that tells us is, yes, angle 2 is correctly solved for. Right? So like on quizzes and tests, you should be able to get 100% if you check your answers. Okay. Again, this was angle 1. This was angle 2. We got 90. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video if you guys have any questions at all on example 6. All right, what I would love for you guys to do next is go ahead, pause the video and try example 7. Very, very similar. Go ahead, give it a shot, and then we'll come back together and see how we did. All right, so for example 7, I was seeing good things as I was walking around. We have these 2 angle measures. It says angle 1 is 65 degrees. So this angle represents 65 degrees. Now you might be looking at that and saying, well, wait a second though, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because, you know, visually it looks like it's an obtuse angle. But they're telling me that it's 65 degrees. So those are really counterintuitive of one another. Now, here's the thing about geometry. A lot of times, things are not necessarily drawn to scale, okay? And this is where the algebra is more crucial. But as long as you fall back on the algebra, you should be okay. Now, I know that my 2 angles, when brought together, create that 180-degree supplementary set of angles, okay? And so that's exactly why we're going to take angle 1 plus angle 2, and they should total to be 180 degrees. Well, they told us what angle 1 is. So as a result, we can just dump in 65 degrees in for angle 1. No clue yet what angle 2 is, but I know it's going to total 180. And much like example 6, to solve for example, or angle 2, you just have to subtract that other item over. Now, again, reiterating, you do need these steps. All right? You have to set up your equations. Now you solve. We're going to take away the 65 degrees from both sides. And we see that angle 2 is going to come out to be, should be 115 degrees. Okay. Now that I've solved for my angle measure, I go ahead and do my verification, my check. So again, angle 1 plus angle 2 should equal 180. If I take my two angles, 65 degrees plus my angle 2 that I just found, 115 degrees, I should grand totally get 180. So then we have 65 plus our 115, ending in a 0, carry the 1. 1 plus 6 plus 1, we get 8. And then 1 drops down. So yes, in fact, angle 2 is 115 degrees. Okay. So this is now 115. Go ahead and feel free to pause the video if you have any questions. But again, in geometry, sometimes things aren't necessarily drawn to scale, but the math is still the same. All right, just know that. What I would love for you guys to do next is to pause the video and please try out examples 8 and 9. If you have everything that you need, go ahead and give them a shot, pause it, and then we'll come back together and see how we did. For example 8, we have these two angles, and we know that when we combine them together, we should get supplementary angles that combine to 180 degrees. And so as we create our equation, we have that first angle, 85 degrees, plus angle x, which we don't yet know, is equal to 180 degrees. Now, sometimes I'll have students say, well, I want to have my variable first, x degrees plus 85 degrees equals 180. Guess what? Those mean the exact same thing, okay? So if you put the variable first, that's fine. Now, suppose we continued solving on that second one, that second way. Because again, you're still taking the two angles and adding them together. They still combine to be 180. In this case, the game is still the same. You're still trying to get x all alone. And to accomplish that, we're going to isolate x by removing that 85. We do have to subtract 85 degrees from both sides. And when we do that over here, positive 85 will cancel with negative 85, leaving us x degrees all alone equals 180 minus 85 should give us 95 degrees. So right now at this moment, we think it's 95, but we always have to go back and verify. Now using our original, we have x plus 85 equals that 180. We believe x is 95. So we're going to dump him in. So 95 plus the 85. Does this in fact equal 180? Again, this is our whole check part. So 95 degrees plus 85 degrees. The 5 plus the 5 gives us 0. We carry the 1. 1 plus 9 plus 8 does give us 18. So yes, did get 180. So yes, in fact, this answer earlier for x is correct. That is the only x value that we can use where it is the same. Looking at number 9, we have x and 37. And we know that this has to combine to be 90 degrees. It's that complementary right angle, 90. So if I take my value x plus 37, my other angle, I should get 90 degrees. There's my equation that I need to write every time. I will not give credit if that is not written. You must have that equation. There are other larger reasons why, guys. Now I got to solve for x to accomplish that. We're trying to isolate x, get them all alone. So we're going to subtract this 37 over. Here they cancel. X is all alone equals 90 minus 37. Should come out to be 53 degrees. And then as always, guys, we have to do our check. So x plus 37. Does this in fact equal 90? Well, we know what x is. It's 53. And so now when we go ahead and plug in our 53 degrees for our check, we're checking to see, does this left side in fact match the right? So we're going to take our 53 degrees and combine our 37 degrees. 3 plus the 7, we get 0, carry the 1. And then 1 plus 5 plus 3, end up with 90. So yes, this does in fact work, did total 90. And again, that tells us that our previous x value that we thought, 53 degrees, is correct. Okay. So what I would love for you guys to do now is to go ahead and please pause the video if you have any questions at all on examples 8 or 9. All right, next up, we are looking at example 10. Now, this is where things get a little bit more complex, but the rules are still the same. Complementary and supplementary are still the exact same. All right, this is what really why I was hammering create those equations, because when you see problems like this, it's going to make it much, much easier, at least conceptually. Now, as we look at example 10a, we see that we have 4x plus 2x. And again, for the directions, our goal here is to find x, and then after we have found it, find each measure of those angles, okay? So we're gonna have to first find what x is. Now, we know that we have two complementary angles. In other words, if I take this angle right here, 4x degrees, and if I add on this other angle, 2x degrees, I should, in grand total, get this 90 degrees. So they should add to be 90 degrees. And now from here, really, it's just the algebra that we've been seeing. Okay, so we have 4x plus 2x. Well, that gives us a grand total of 6x's is equal to 90 degrees. So we just brought those and combined like terms there. And now our goal here is to try and get x all alone. Well, this 6 is stuck and glued to x. And as a result, we're going to divide both sides by 6. And when we do that, 6 cancels with 6. X is all alone equals 90 divided by 6 should give us 15. And we do, in fact, get 15. So again, that is what our x value is. Now, what we need to do with that is plug it in for each part. So for example, we have 4x, right? We're going to take our x value that's 15 and plug it in for the x. So when we do that, we would have 4 times 15, which this angle then comes out to be 60 degrees. Okay. Likewise, we're going to go ahead and plug in 15 for this second angle. So we would have 2 times 15. And so this bottom angle 2 times 15 is 30 degrees. Okay. And now we can verify and make sure everything is correct. So we do have to do our check, just as always. We have 4x plus 2x equals 90, that original statement. Again, a moment ago when I plugged in the 15, I ended up with my 2 corresponding angles, or I should say 2 complementary angles, rather. So earlier we found this to be 60 degrees plus 30 degrees. When I combine those together, yes, we do in fact get 90. Okay, so if we add these together, you do get 90 degrees. So 90 is equal to 90. We have correctly solved for x as a result. And on top of that, we have found our 2 angle measures, okay? 60 is one of them, 30 is the other, okay? So just finding x is not enough. Sometimes and most of the time, usually, they're gonna ask us to find those angles. So you're really looking for those 3 items. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video and ask if you have any questions at all on this example. Again, I need the equation part, how you actually solved for it. So you did all that work. Then this is the check, as always. We normally check it. And then also, we're finding those angle measures for each one. Okay? So that's why those are important as well. So I need all of those components in order to get full points on the homeworks and quizzes, okay? And tests. All right, as we move on to B, what I would love for you guys to do is go ahead, pause the video, and please try out question B. Again, hopefully you've had an opportunity now to try out B. If you have not yet done so, please again do that. Otherwise, and then we'll come back together and see how we did. But otherwise, we're going to go ahead and give it a shot. So if you need to, pause it though. Now, looking at B, we see that we have these 2 angle measures. And obviously, this first angle is represented with the 7x. And then our other angle is represented with this x plus 20. Now, looking at these 2 angles, we do see that they don't create a 90 degrees, but rather, if you extended this out, this would create a pair of supplementary angles. Okay, so as a result, this is going to then total 180 degrees. So our 7x, when brought together with our x plus 20, in total, they should combine to be 180 degrees. Okay, and this is why those equations were so important earlier. So that conceptually, when we take our 2 angles and combine them together, we get that supplementary angle in this case. Now, our goal here is to try and solve for x. And to accomplish that, we have 7x plus another 1x, grand total of 8 of those x's, plus 20 is equal to 180 degrees. Now again, our goal here is really to solve for x. We want him all alone. And to accomplish that, we are going to subtract this 20 over from both sides. Positive 20 will cancel out with negative 20, leaving us just our 8x equals 160. Now again, our goal is to isolate and solve for x. We want him all alone. That 8 is stuck and glued to the x. So that's in order to get rid of him, we are going to divide both sides by 8. Because 8 divided by 8 is just 1. They cancel out with one another. And now x comes out to be 160 divided by 8 is 20. Okay. Now our goal is to try and determine what are our angle measures. Well, if I look at my 7x, I'm going to go ahead and try and plug in my x value that I think. So in this case, I believe it is 7 times 20. And there I would get 140 degrees. So this angle right here represents 140 degrees. For my other angle, again, if I plug x in there, (20 plus 20), I would end up with 40 degrees. And so if I take my 140 degrees and I take my 40 degrees, I'm asking myself, do they combine to give me my 180 that I need? And the answer there is yes, they would. Now again, though, just kind of going back to that check component because it is so important. We have 7x plus our x plus 20 equals 180. A moment ago, we said that we plugged in 20 in for x here. The 7 times 20 was 140. And then the 20 plus the 20 we found a moment ago was the 40. And when we bring these together, we do in fact end up with 180 degrees. So yes, this checks out. And so our final answer is the x was 20 degrees. So that needs to get boxed. And then likewise, this part. And so we get 140 and our other angle measure 40. Okay. Everything that you see on this screen for B needs to be on your homework. Okay. That is the work I am looking for. Every single thing there. All right. Every step. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video if you have any questions at all, though. All right, now we're shifting on to example 11. And what I would love for you guys to do is, well, we'll read it together here. It says angle C is supplementary to angle D. And angle C is 100 degrees. Whereas angle D is this 4x plus 20 degrees. So we don't quite know what angle D is. And our goal here is just to solve for x. Now, what I would like for you guys to do is pause the video and try and see what you can create. Now, I will give you guys a hint. I do think a visual of what's happening would help. So what I would like for you guys to do is create a visual, try and solve for x, and then even after that, find out what angle D is. All right, hopefully you've had an opportunity now to try this one out. So angle C is supplementary to angle D. What that is saying is we have 180 degrees that two angles form together. So we have angle C, which is right here, and angle D, which is located right there. We're going to draw a picture of this scenario happening. And it says that angle C and angle D are supplementary, which we know totals 180 degrees. Then it later states that angle C is 100 degrees. So as a result, we know that this is 100 degrees. But angle D, we don't yet know. It is this 4x plus 20 degrees. Now I know that because they're supplementary, if I were to take angle C and add angle D, I should get a total of 180 degrees. That's what it means to be supplementary. What I can do now is plug in my values that I know. So for example, I know that angle C is 100 degrees. So I can plug him in for angle C. I know angle D is this 4x plus 20. So I can plug him in as well. 4x plus 20. And then in total, this should still combine to be 180 degrees because they're supplementary still. Now my goal is really just to solve for x. And to accomplish that, on my left side, I'm going to combine like terms. So I have 100 and this 20 that I can actually bring together and get a total of 120. Now that 4x couldn't really be brought together with anything, so we're just going to drop him down. Equals our 180. Now, this is really that two-step process that we've been seeing. Our goal is to try and isolate and get x all alone. And to accomplish that, we're going to usually add, subtract, and then finally usually divide. Sometimes you have to multiply, but usually divide. So to isolate our x, we're first going to subtract our 120. Positive 120 cancels with the negative 120. So we're left with our 4x equals 180 minus 120 is 60. Now to solve for x and get it all alone, this is where we typically divide both sides by that coefficient 4. So in this case, they cancel. X is all alone equals 60 divided by 4 comes out to be 15. Okay. So we believe x is 15. Now, as always, we're going to go ahead and try and find out our angle measures. Well, angle C, we kind of already know. But this angle D, which is this 4x plus 20, we're going to go ahead and plug in 15 for that x value. So we end up then with 4 times 15 plus the 20. 4 times 15 comes out to be 60 plus 20. And 60 plus 20 is 80 degrees. Now again, our check, just to make sure, was originally angle C plus angle D. Is that equal to 180? Well, angle C was 100 degrees plus angle D we just found is 80 degrees when we plugged it in. So does this in fact add up to that 180? Most definitely it does. Okay. So again, though, that is example 11. We have solved for x. It was 15. That's our final answer. And then also angle D came out to be 80 degrees. That's our other part of the answer. Okay. This says, I know it's a little hard to see, but that says angle D. Angle C, we kind of already knew. They told us that from the beginning. So we were kind of more just finding the other angles. All right. What I would love for you guys to do is feel free to pause the video if you have any questions at all on example 11. All right, next up, example 12. Very similar. Here you have angle A is complementary to angle B, and they tell us that angle A is this x plus 10 and angle B is 2x minus 7. And we're asked to solve for x and then just like before, find the angle measures. So what I would love for you guys to do, this is a pretty good challenge one, pause the video, try it out, and then see when we come together, see how we did. Now, also within the, as always, guys, as you're doing them, and then maybe, you start the video to kind of see how we start it, feel free to pause the video though, and then just go from certain spots if you need like little hints along the way too, okay? But try as much as you can to be able to do on your own. All right, hopefully you've had the opportunity now to try this one out. So we have that angle A is complementary to angle B. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is draw two angles. And for complementary, remember, that is 90 degrees. So that's why I'm drawing this more of as a right angle. Okay. And let's fix that, make it a little bit better. There we go. So our right angle is located right here. And angle A is going to be this one. So we'll zoom in a little bit. So this is angle A here, and this is angle B. And it tells us that angle A is this x plus 10. So this is x plus 10 degrees for angle A, whereas angle B is that, looks like 2x minus 7. 2x minus 7. All right. Now, since these are complementary, we do know that they're going to combine to be 90 degrees. So if I were to take these two angles, combine them together, I get my 90 degrees that I need. And that's where angle A plus angle B is going to sum up and be 90 degrees. Now what I can go ahead and do is plug in those A and that B. So angle A again is that x plus 10 degrees. My angle B is that 2x minus 7 degrees. And this is going to sum up to be still that 90 degrees. So notice how we literally just dumped in the values that they told us. Next, our goal is to solve for x. To do that, we're going to go ahead and combine like terms. This is very, very common when you're solving these problems. Okay, usually you substitute in just like you just saw, dump in the stuff that was given, and now you're going to combine like terms. So we have a 1x being brought together with this 2x, grand total of 3x. Then we have 10 and that negative 7. Positive 10 and negative 7. When we bring those together, we get just a positive 3 equals 90 degrees. Next up, so now when we're trying to solve for x, we're trying to isolate and get him all alone. And to accomplish that, we're going to go ahead and subtract this 3 over from both sides. Again, this is that two-step process that we see where we add and subtract an item over, leaving us our 3x equals 87. And with that 3 stuck and glued to the x, we now typically divide. That's that second part in the two-step process. So the 3's cancel out, leaving us x equals, and then 87 divided by 3 comes out to be 29. So we see that our x value is 29. Now what we have to do is try and figure out what our two angles are. Well, again, from earlier, angle A was, we'll bring that up a little bit so we can have more space. Angle A is that x plus 10 degrees. Angle B was our 2x minus 7 degrees. And we know that when we combine these together, we should get a total of 90 degrees. So we believe x is 29. As a result, we're going to go ahead and plug them in for x. And so when we do that, all right, and so earlier we said that angle A was that x plus 10, and our angle B was that 2x minus 7. And these again should total that 90 degrees. So again, our x value from earlier was 29, so we're going to go ahead and plug that value in. So for angle A, we have 29 plus 10, giving us 39 degrees for angle A. For angle B, we have 2 times 29 minus 7. And 2 times 29 would give us 58 minus 7. And 58 minus 7 would give us a total of 51 degrees. And the question becomes, does this in total become 90 degrees? Well, 39 plus 51 does combine to give us 90 degrees. So yes, this is equal to 90 degrees. Okay. So as a result, angle A, we calculated to be 39 degrees. And angle B, we calculated to be 51 degrees when we plug that value in for x, that 29. So our final answers are x equals 29, angle A was 39 degrees, and angle B was 51 degrees. So I need all of those in boxes as our final answers, okay? Go ahead, feel free to pause the video if you have any questions at all on example 12. All right, here we are at example 13. And we're asked to solve for x, then find the measure of each angle. So what I would like for you guys to do is pause the video. It's super similar to the questions we've been seeing. Pause the video, give it a shot, and then we will come back together and see how we did. All right, hopefully you've had the opportunity now to try this one. As we can see, we are looking at a complementary angle. And so this sum should come out to be 90 degrees in the end. And every single one of these angles, when we combine them together, should give us that 90 degrees that we need. Okay. And so if I take each angle individually, we have x plus 3 degrees plus our x minus 1 degrees. And we add that to our final one, x plus 1 degrees. We should, in total, get that 90 that we need, 90 degrees. And so now we're going to go ahead and that is the equation that we need to have. But next, we're going to go ahead and combine our like terms. Combine our like terms here. We have 1x plus another x plus another x for a grand total of 3 of those x's. Now combining our values together, 3, -1, and +1, we're going to get +3 there. So super similar to our last example, similar numbers, but this time we do have 3 angles instead of 2. But when we go ahead and solve, we should get the same value here. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. Again, this is that 2-step process that we're working on. So 3x equals 87. And then we have to get x all alone. That 3 is our coefficient that we're going to have to divide on both sides. So 3's cancel out. X is all alone equals 87 divided by 3 comes out to be 29. 9. Now that we have solved for x, we're going to go ahead and plug it in to our angles to figure out each one's value. So again, we have x plus 3 plus our x minus 1 plus our x plus 1. Again, this is still 90 degrees. So pretty much just rewriting that original statement. Now again, x is 29. So as a result, we're going to go ahead and plug in 29 for the x value everywhere where we see our x. And so for this first angle, we have 29 plus 3 degrees. So then that would come out to be 32 degrees. For our second angle, we have 29 minus 1 degrees for a total of 28 degrees. And then for our final one, we have 29 plus 1 degrees, which gives us a total of 30 degrees. So the question becomes, when we combine all of these angles together, do we in fact still get that 90 degrees? And so this is where, because we have 3 of them, we're going to use our vertical method. So 32 plus 28 plus 30. 2 plus 8 plus 0 is 10. Carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 2 is 6. Plus 3 is 9. So yes, we do in fact get 90 degrees. And so 90 degrees is still equal to 90 degrees. Again, that just confirms, hey, our x value that we thought of earlier when we solved it is in fact correct. So we're going to box that now. And on top of that, we have found each individual angle measure. So for our first one, that x plus 3, we found that to be this 32 degrees when we plugged our x in. This is 32 degrees. For our x minus 1, we found that to be 28 degrees. And then for our x plus 1, we found that to be 30 degrees. Okay. So again, for our homework and quizzes and tests, that's what we're looking for, all of that work. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video if you have any questions at all. All right, here we are on example 14. We're asked to solve for x and then find the measure of each angle. What I would love for you guys to do, it is super similar to the ones we've been seeing. Go ahead, pause the video, try it out, and then after you're done, we'll come back together and see how we did. All right. Now again, hopefully you've had the opportunity to try this one out, solve it all the way through, but if you need to pause the video intermittently and get little hints to kind of help yourself progress through the problem, feel free to do that too. Now, looking at these angles, we see that when we combine all 3 of them together, we should get that supplementary case where it's 180 degrees. And so as a result, we're going to take our 5x plus 4. We're going to take our x minus 2. Our x minus 2. And then we're going to tack on our last angle, 3x plus 7. In total, when I combine all these angles together, I get 180 degrees. So that is the equation setup that we do need to have. Now we're going to go ahead and typically we combine our like terms as our first step. So we're going to bring all of our x's together. We have 5 plus another 1. We're at 6. And then plus another 3. Grand total of 9 of those. So we have 9x. Now combining all of our numbers together, our integers, we have 4 plus negative 2. Well, that would be 2. And then plus 7 would be 9. So positive 9 equals 180 degrees. Now, it's been a little bit of a coincidence that these values have been the exact same. That's not always the case. Okay, most of the time they're actually not the same value, but just as a heads up, they have been for these past couple problems. Now, our goal here is to solve for x. All the math beyond that is still the exact same though, okay? So we're still going to do our two-step process by subtracting 9 first from both sides. Again, we're trying to isolate x, get them all alone. In which case now our positive 9 is going to cancel with our negative 9, leaving us that 9x equals 180 minus 9 gives us 171. Now to solve for x, we're going to go ahead and divide both sides by that coefficient of 9. In which case, when they cancel, x is all alone equals 19. So boom, we've just found out what x is. Now what we have to do is try and figure out these other angle measures. So what we have to do is pretty much copy down our original equation. So we have 5x plus 4. And this also, as we find each individual angle measure, we also kind of check our solution just to make sure it's correct. Kind of at the same time we accomplish that. So does this in fact equal 180? That's the question. So we think x is 19. So as a result, we're going to plug that in for x everywhere that we see it. And when we do that for the first one, we end up with 5 times 19 plus 4 degrees. Plus, we'll focus it on just this first one for a moment. So 5 times 19 is going to give us 95 plus 4, which gives us then a total of 99 degrees. For that first angle, we got 99 degrees. For the second one, very similar. We're going to go ahead and plug in 19 and then subtract 2 away from it for the second angle, giving us a total of, looks like 17 degrees. And then finally, for our third angle, again, we're still plugging 19 in there for x. So 3 times 19, we get 57 plus 7. And 57 plus 7 gives us 64 degrees. So the question becomes, is this still equal to 180? We have found each and every individual angle by plugging x in, but now their sum should still combine and check off to be 180 degrees. So this is where that vertical approach is going to come in handy. So we have 99 plus 17 plus 64. 9 plus 7 is 16. Plus the 4 gives us 20. So we're going to have a 0 there and then carry the 2. 2 plus 9 plus 1 plus 6. Well, here we would get 11, 12, and then 18. So yes, we do in fact get 180 degrees, which is equal to 180 degrees. So it does check out, and that is always a good sign. What that tells us is that x is in fact 19. So we were correct there. So we need to box that answer because it is correct. And then just visually, we have found our values. Again, the 5x plus 4 was 99 degrees that we found earlier. Here, we'll change up colors so we can see that a little bit better. We'll do blue. So this 5x plus 4, when we plugged it in, we ended up with that 99 degrees. with that x value of 19. The x minus 2 we saw was 17 degrees. And finally, the last one, 3x plus 7, came out to be 64 degrees. So that's what we mean by find each and every angle measure, okay? So we need that part as well. So recapping, you need the equation. Then you solve for x. And then you do your check, which is always needed. You have to check. In doing so, you're finding each and every angle measure, which still checks out to be that either 90 or 180. And then finally just rewriting them into our shape. Okay. If you have any questions at all on 13 or 14, please feel free to pause the video and ask. These are definitely more complex questions, okay? They are tough. I'll be the first to admit that. But this is really the end game with them. Okay, so if you understand this through and through, then you're in really, really good shape. But you do have to show all of your steps and all of your work that you see on this page right now.